Hey everyone, it's Amit. So the core question that I want to address in this video is this, is if I have a surplus of funds, should I be taking that surplus of funds and more aggressively contributing towards retirement? Or should I be taking those funds and pay off my student loan debt more aggressively? When we're talking about surplus of funds, right, it really means you've got a couple of things taken care of. One, you have your 3 to 6 month emergency fund set up all and running. The second thing is you have all your debts, they're basically all current. And what I mean by current is there's no late fees, nothing is in collections, because you do not want to have an impact to your credit score. If any of these things are actually applicable to you, you should probably be paying off that, and you do not necessarily have any surplus funds to even be talking about. And the third thing, of course, is if you have a job that has an employer match 401k program, then you want to be contributing enough into that 401k program to take advantage of that employer match, because if you're not doing that, then you're basically leaving free money on the table, and we do not want that circumstance to basically occur. If you are one of those jobs where you do not have an employer offered 401k program, then you should have a Roth IRA account set up. And you should be contributing into that Roth IRA up to the $6,000 limit. If you want additional information into 401ks or IRAs or whatever, there's definitely different videos around that. I'll include links to that up above, and I'll also include links to that in the description below, so definitely go ahead and check those out. And once you have determined that you have surplus funds available, then now what do you do with it? Okay, so at the beginning, what I want you to do is I want you to list out all your debts, okay, from highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. And then I want you to draw a line, okay, draw a line at that 8% number. So any debts that are at 8% or higher are the debts that you need to pay off first before you can even think about utilizing any of these surplus funds and putting it towards your investments. What I mean by that is this, okay, so if you have a 15% debt and a 10% debt and an 8% debt and a 6% debt, okay, pay off that 15% fully in its entirety with that surplus money, knock it out, get it off the table, and then you're done with it, okay? Then broach the 10% debt number, then get to the 8% number debt, right? And then hold, okay? Do not start attacking that 6% debt right off the bat, just hold there. Now, the reason why I've drawn this 8% line number is this. The historical average return on the S&P 500 is 8%. Okay, and this is over decades and decades of data. So if you are essentially paying off debt that is higher than that 8% number, right, it actually makes a lot of sense. But if you are paying off, you're putting more towards investments than paying off that debt, all that basically means is you've got your debts that are compounding in value a lot faster than what the return on your investments is really going to be. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to be paying off your debts that are higher than this 8% number, okay? So now once you've got those 8% and north debt essentially taken care of, at that point in time we can start thinking about, okay, now what do we do with the surplus of funds? Should we essentially be contributing more towards student loans or other debts, or should we be paying more into retirement? So at this point, what I'm going to do is show you a chart, okay? I obtained this chart from the Money Guys show. If you don't follow them already, you probably should, but this is a chart that they essentially show, which shows how powerful it is to start investing early. What this chart is essentially saying is this: when you are 20 years old, every dollar that you invest in the market has the capacity or the capability to become $88 by the time you retire at the age of 65. And then it progressively keeps going down, okay? So by the time you turn 40, every dollar that you invest will only have the capacity to increase up to $7 by the time you retire at 65. So hopefully this will give you some indication of how powerful it is to start investing early. So when it comes to something like that, what you should be doing with the surplus of funds is have most of it allocated towards investing, particularly when you're somewhere between 20 and right around 40 years old, okay? And what I mean by most is like a 70-30 split, okay? Be very aggressive when you're younger and taking full advantage of compound interest and all of these realized returns that you can potentially generate from something such as the stock market. Once you start approaching that 40-year-old and up number, it becomes very important to start paying off your debts as quickly as possible, because one, each dollar is not increasing its way to that similar amount as what you had in your 20s. It's still growing, don't get me wrong, okay? But you still need to pay off these student loan debts and other debts as quickly as possible as well, because you do not want to be in a position where some of that basically just carries on into retirement and things like that, okay? So just start putting more towards your debts at that point in time relative to your investments, and take care and knock off those debts as quickly as possible, and then pivot back towards putting more so towards your investments. And when I say you flip, right, around 40, you start flipping, what I mean by that is, like we talked about the 70-30 number earlier, right? 70 going towards investments, 30 going towards your debts. Just kind of flip that to like 30-70, right? Such that you're putting 30% now towards your investments and 70% now towards your debts, and try to knock those off as quickly as possible. By this stage, by the time you're 40, your income is probably pretty much expanded quite a bit as well. So you'll be putting tons of money at this stage towards your retirement, even though it's only 30% of that surplus, but just as something to keep in mind as you're going through this process. So that should essentially be it, okay? So you're never completely taking your foot off the pedal when it comes to student loan debt or retirement, okay? And it's really an and type of question as opposed to an or question. It's not, should I be paying off my student loan debt more aggressively, or should I be contributing more towards my retirement? It's, you should be doing both. It's just the weighting as it relates to both of these sides. It just changes depending on the type of debt that you have, and also about how old you really are. So I hope you enjoyed the contents of this video. If you did, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, ring the notification bell. Also in the comments below, include any other types of questions that you may have from a personal finance perspective, and then I'll create a video on it and we'll talk about it. I'll see you soon.